When I'm doing a staff meeting or when I'm having a staff meeting and people are late to the staff meeting, I have a visceral reaction to that. I have a very negative reaction to that. And so my behavior becomes one of, why are you late? I become a little passive aggressive sometimes where I'm like, so thanks for coming to the meeting. You can get the information afterwards, or I'll say something that really becomes passive aggressive. So what I find happens is there's some consequences to my behavior. So obviously I'm not going to have a good relationship with that person that I put down, right? So when you're in that situation, you're not going to have that relationship. And so then next, what happens is the meeting just goes sour. I don't know if you've ever been in one of those meetings, somebody has an outburst. Everyone in that meeting is just like, oh my goodness, I don't want to be in this meeting anymore. You're not being productive. So that's really a good example of how the behavioral algorithm works. And I'll have a Roadhouse burger, medium rare.
No medium, is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Fries?
Yes, please. Thank you. I've never ordered anything in the middle of a presentation. That was pretty good.
That was impressive, yeah. That was an event trigger.
Yeah, that was a trigger. The waiter was looking at me and I knew I had to do something.
Yeah.
So really event and triggers. So Marshall Goldsmith just put a book out called Triggers, and it really talks about the different environments and that kind of stuff. And so really triggers can be anything, and they're really different for everybody. They can be conscious, they can be subconscious, they can be positive and they can be negative. So when I work at home, I have a lot of negative distractions at my house. And so the biggest one is the television, right? So if I get up in the morning and I turn on the television, I am apt to spend a lot more time wasting my time watching what's going on in the news, what's going on in the politics, what's going on a television show, or if I'm lucky, I get caught up in some kind of movie and I end up watching that movie in the morning versus doing work, right? So that's really some negative event triggers that happen. On the other side, I have positive event triggers at home as well, where I'm looking at my office. So I set my office up to be very comfortable. It's on the first floor, it looks out on a beautiful garden in the back, so it's a very comfortable, it makes me want to work. It makes me want to go to that room. So that's a really positive event trigger that I have. So that's a really good positive thing. So event triggers can be everything, and we have them, and we have different responses to them. We can move up to the next slide. So it's an interesting thing about the event trigger is we have this emotional response to it. And so this emotional response can be anything. One of the examples I like to use is when my wife and I go out antiquing and we're going through antique shops and that kind of stuff, and I see something from Maine, I have an emotional response. Because when I was a child, we summered on the coast of Maine. My grandparents had a farm up there. So it was a great place to go. I have all these great memories from that. And so when I walk by, I see something from Maine, I have an emotional response, and it kind of triggers me to think, ooh, should I buy that or should I not buy that? My wife walks by and has absolutely no emotional response to that at all. It just looks at it and goes, well, that's a piece of a knickknack. Why would you want that, right? So they're triggers. They're really different triggers on how we look at those events. So if we think about my first example where somebody's late to work or late to one of my staff meetings, my emotional response was one of, I felt disrespected. I felt disrespected. I wasn't sure what I was going to do and where I was going to go about it. So I had the impulse, and I had this negative barrage come out and get to everyone. So there was this negative barrage of how we got there, right? So there was that negative barrage. Can you go to the next slide? So when we talk about emotions, emotions are those things, a complex pattern of changes, including physiological arousal, feelings, cognitive process, and behavior reactions made in response to situations to be perceived personally significant. So that perceived to be personally significant is the trigger. How many people like to give public speaking? There's a few of you. Yeah. How many people get anxiety around public speaking? Right. Right. So do you get that response? Do you feel like get nervous and all those kind of things, right? So there's that response that you feel when you get up there. And I know when I give a speech, I get nervous, but I also get excited. So I had those two emotions going on at the same time. And so you're impacted by that as you go through your day. And all these triggers are kind of hitting you at different times, and you're kind of feeling that going through them. So we can go to, okay. So when we get into social and emotional intelligence, it's that becoming aware, an ability to be aware of your own emotions and those of others around you. Right? So when you become aware, there's that word, right? I wanted you to remember that word, aware. So there you are, you're aware of something, you're going to have better choices. And those of others in the moment, and to use that information to manage ourselves and manage our relationships. So when we get into that and we understand what our emotions are, we can then better use them to manage our relationships. So what happens in the behavior algorithm is we have some kind of event, right? And so now we have the emotional response, and so now we have a choice to make, right? Because now we're aware. So I'm now aware that I feel disrespected when somebody's late to my meeting. And so now I can kind of make a decision on how I'm going to react. Am I going to make an outburst? Which is definitely one choice, but there are consequences. Or I can make another choice, and then what I do now is I welcome people to the meeting, and I thank them for coming, and I say, it's really important that I have your input. And so I make them feel good about themselves, and then the meeting continues really well, right? So the consequences become totally different. Because one, the meeting continues really well. I still have a strong relationship with this person. And what I do normally at the end of these meetings is I walk up to that person and I say, hey, you okay? Was everything all right? And they usually go, yeah, everything was fine. This is what happened, right? And so then I have a chance to be empathetic to them and understand what they're going through and how I can make that relationship better, right? So now I'm starting to figure out, hey, I'm having a relationship with this person, and I'm not just there to boss them around and tell them what to do. I'm building a relationship up and really kind of giving them what's going on. So now I have made different choices, and then my behavior's better, and therefore the consequences are better. All because we thought about and understood what those triggers were and what our emotional responses were to them. So you did it next. So there are really benefits to social and emotional intelligence and doing some training on it. You can increase revenue, you can increase savings, increase market share. It's interesting when you get into the studies of it, the impact that this can have on your business. But really, that's not really important to me. What's important to me as an executive coach, if you go to the next slide, is the importance that emotional intelligence has on us individually. People with positive emotions, they live longer. Positive emotions have more satisfying marriages and better relationships, and they have better careers. So by just doing the social and emotional training, they get into a better place there. So I think we'll just one last slide. So when I get in there, what I want you guys to remember is one, increase your awareness gives you choices. So whether this is emotional awareness, whether this is intellectual awareness, or whether it is awareness about your spirituality, the more awareness you have, you're going to be able to make better choices. And it's a really simple formula, and I think sometimes we forget that. And we talk about increasing people's learning and education and that kind of stuff. It's really increasing people's perspective and giving them a chance to kind of look all around there and be their perspective. And the last thing is handshakes are the start of the relationship. So if there's anything I can do, I'm considering this my handshake out to you. Please let me know. My mission in life is really to support people and give them the opportunity to be successful in their life. So if there's anything I can do, please let me know. So that's it. How did I